The latest Bengals injury news, the most relatable player in the NFL, plus the Bengals may be making a big mistake. We'll get into all of that right now on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. We're going to get into some news and notes, starting with Trey Hendrickson. I think Trey Hendrickson's playing this week. It feels like he's not just trending in the right direction. I think he wanted to play last week. I think it killed him for him to not be available last week. And so when you look at this game against the Jets, I think that this Bengals team, they need some pass rush. They know it. Trey knows it. He was a limited participant on Wednesday, but the vibe, the feel, everything that I've gathered, and I've tried to gather a lot because it's a huge story, especially going up against a team that you really want to keep down early. You want your top pass rusher to be there and be part of that. And I do think you're going to see Trey Hendrickson on the field this week, starting for the Cincinnati Bengals. Will you see Cedric Johnson? I think that one's really interesting. Maybe not this week, but Cedric Johnson activated in that 21-day window for him to come off of injured reserve and join the active roster has started. It officially started on Wednesday. I think that's big because this is a guy that some veterans in the Bengals locker room were raving about this offseason, saying that he could matter, that he could be a pass rusher, a piece of that pass rush puzzle. And with Cam Sample injured, and he had some kind of device, I would say, I don't want to say full-on brace, but for lack of a better term, brace on his leg yesterday. I think that Cam Sample could be out this week, which means, well, we could certainly see Cedric Johnson activated in the near future, maybe as soon as this week against the Jets. One of the big mistakes, or a potential big mistake that the Bengals may be making, we're going to dive into that coming up in just a few minutes. But we got to get to the most relatable quarterback in the NFL and quickly becoming the most likable guy and most likable story in the league. And it's really, really hard to look at the Joe Flacco situation, his entire thing, and not like him. And I've been in every press conference Joe Flacco has had, or whether it's on the road in Green Bay, here in Cincinnati, and he's becoming more and more likable. And I love it because I think he's just genuinely himself. And so on Wednesday, when he's like, man, I really enjoy eating a meal by myself, going to restaurants by myself, because his wife and kids are back home in New Jersey where they go to school and all of those things, living their life while he's continuing his dream of being an NFL quarterback. I think that this is amazing perspective for every parent that's ever parented, for lack of a better term. Here's Joe Flacco.
Go sit at a restaurant by myself and realize that, man, that's pretty enjoyable to do. After there's not too many situations. I tell people all the time. I mean, I used to see guys sitting at a bar by themselves, or just sitting by themselves eating and grabbing a little meal, and I'm like, man, I feel so bad for that guy. Like, you almost want to go join him. And now I realize, like, that dude was in heaven. And not to say that that's obviously not what I want. I'd rather be at home sitting at the dinner table with my kids and hearing what the hell they were talking about all day. But if you have to do it, then you might as well take advantage of it. So, just little things like that.
And you probably laughed. You probably saw that before now, that clip, or heard that clip before now. But I think everyone that has kids, nieces, nephews, whatever, enjoys that time. And why it was so relatable to me is, on the road, it's very much that way. When you go on the road for a Saturday game, let's say you have a layover in one of these airports. Well, guess what you're doing? You're getting a cold one. You're stopping at the bar. You're eating by yourself. Usually, we're not on the same flights. All of those things. Same thing goes when you're on the road on a Saturday or whatever the case is. Sometimes you're going out alone. I'm thinking, what city? It was Minnesota. Before I met up with the other writers, I went down to the hotel bar, had a burger, had some fries, and it's very, very enjoyable. And I think that's a very underrated thing as you get older. Something that when I'm 21, I'm not thinking about doing. Now it's like, heck yeah, I would love to go grab a pop or two and have a burger with some fries, and who wouldn't, right? So I think Joe Flacco is enjoying the Cincy food scene and is hitting that up some. I think that's really relatable. I also think that this was noteworthy, and I want to play a clip of Joe Flacco and what Joe Burrow has meant to him during this process. Plus, I think the Bengals might be making a big mistake, and a mistake that I certainly disagree with, and yet I think they're committed to it. We'll get to that as well coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by Sleeper. Right now, you can try Sleeper and get a free $20, no deposit required. I said that, and I'll say it again. Free $20, no deposit required, and that's it. If you want to try to put your fantasy football knowledge to the test, all you have to do is download the Sleeper app, pick more or less on your favorite players with more stats than any other daily fantasy app. From pregame or live, you pick more or less on the predicted stats, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. And right now, you're going to get a $100 match on your first deposit. All you have to do is use promo code Bengals Talk. It's that simple. Bengals Talk is going to get you up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Plus, you could try it without a deposit right now with a free $20. All you have to do is download the Sleeper app today. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. And again, use promo code Bengals Talk. All right, before we get to what I feel like is a mistake for the Bengals, let's get to Joe Flacco, because Joe Burrow is such a likable guy, and he has his one-liners and different things press conference-wise that we've used and reacted to and talked about for years and years and years. And Joe Flacco is doing the same thing in a different way. He's obviously in a different phase of life, and that's what I think is so interesting. Is you got Joe Flacco, you got Joe Burrow, you got Jamar Chase, right? And both are dads, right? Joe Flacco and Jamar Chase, both fathers. They're up there on the Amazon Prime set. And it's like there's a 15-year difference. Like Joe Flacco had his 10s when Jamar was born. And like that's kind of wild to think of it that way. At the same time, Flacco is leaning on these guys to learn this offense and to figure it out on the fly. And Joe Burrow has helped that. Here's Flacco on Burrow and what Burrow has done to make things a little more comfortable, even though Burrow is on injured reserve.
Joe's been around like mostly either like he's sat in a couple little meetings, or it's been right in our little locker room area kind of hanging out. And so there's been times where it's been like, hey, just so you know, like here's how maybe I would have said, here's how maybe I would do that, just in case you're in that situation. Like these guys are familiar with like this type of communication. And then other than that, it's just been kind of shooting the breeze and just kind of catching up a little bit and getting to know each other a little bit.
How nice has it been to have him around as a sounding board?
Great. No, great. I think it's just great to have him in the building and, have his presence and yeah, for sure. I also think like, to add Jake to that, like those guys are comfortable together. So like they're able to open up a little bit more when they're together and around me, as opposed to being maybe one-on-one. I think it helps to have, that third guy in there to help everybody be a little bit more comfortable.
Is there anything about Burrow that kind of surprised you? He's kind of this larger-than-life figure, I guess, and then you get to see him every day.
I don't think I look at it that way. You always look at him as a fellow competitor, and now you look at him as a teammate. And it's not like I know him well enough or have been around him long enough to notice anything like that. Just still trying to get to know each other.
Joe helping Joe. What do you know? That entire video and audio is posted in our feed or on our channel. So make sure you check out Joe Flacco. 20 minutes of just awesomeness, honestly. I mean, it's really good stuff. And I'm enjoying covering Joe Flacco. And I do think it really has the chance to be the NFL story of the year if he continues to play at a high level and keep this Bengals team in the playoff mix so Joe Burrow can return. But are the Bengals making a big mistake? I've hinted at it a few times. It certainly feels like it. Dylan Fairchild and Jalen Rivers appear to be in line to start this week against the Jets at guard. It's something we tackled earlier this week on Monday. I would stick with Dalton Reisner. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. If they go this route, there's no scenario. And I kind of tried to pin Zac into a corner a little bit on Wednesday, for lack of a better term, and say, all right, well, is this about building for the future and keeping an eye to the future? Or is this about looking at it and saying, hey, we need to put the best guys out there, and we need to win this week. And he said it's about winning this week. But you look at it and you see Dalton Risner, and he's with the second team. You see Lucas Patrick, and he's with the second team. Now, I understand Lucas Patrick coming off of an injury. He's your backup center as well. You like what Jalen Rivers has done overall, develop-wise, fine. But there's no scenario where you can't look at Dalton Risner and say he's one of your two best guards. There's just really not. And so to not play him in a game that, they would probably, you should win regardless, right? You're still dealing with Quinnen Williams. You're dealing with an absolute monster in the trenches, someone that's going to be really, really tough to deal with and can be a game wrecker and can make Joe Flacco extremely uncomfortable. I don't like it. Maybe it works out. Maybe they're totally comfortable with Dylan Fairchild and it's going to work. They've been all in on Dylan Fairchild since they drafted him. And I think Dalton Risner has played really well the past couple of weeks. I think he looks like the guy that I expected when they signed him, expected him to be. And I think he will continue to do that. And I wonder if it's as simple as they want to continue to develop these guys, these young guys. They know they have the safety net in Dalton Risner. And if things don't go well, how long is the leash? Like, is Dylan Fairchild's leash a half against the Jets? And if he struggles, then you put Risner in? Is Rivers on a short leash as well? Because Risner can play both of those spots. I thought he had a really good rapport with Orlando Brown Jr. This could be a mistake. It's certainly, it's something that you highlight. Like, it's not a footnote. It's like you highlight, you write it down, you highlight it. Hey, are they making a mistake or not? And it's in bold and it's italicized and it's highlighted. We'll see on Sunday. But certainly something to pay attention to, a storyline I'm following. The way the offense has played over the last 6 quarters, the way they ran the ball last week, the way they were able to give Joe Flacco time, does that go haywire if Dalton Risner isn't on the field? Now, I haven't confirmed that. Zac Taylor didn't want to commit to who he's starting, but it does feel like it's going to be Dylan Fairchild and Jalen Rivers, the two rookies. He did commit to the 2 linebackers. So you're looking at it and you're like, 2 rookie linebackers, 2 rookie guards, very much in play for Sunday's game against the Jets. Obviously, we're going to be there covering it every single step of the way. It's been a fun week here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. I know Andrew Fox Miller is doing a nice special film conversation analyzing the Bengals rushing attack with Mike Santagata, Bengals Sands. That'll be up this week. Make sure that you check out Enter the Jungle if you missed that. I discussed the offensive line as well earlier this week. And of course, we'll have everything you need to know ahead of Sunday's game against the Jets and a prediction coming your way as well. For Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening to Cincinnati Bengals Talk.